amigos y amigas de Formación Ilegal. Buenas tardes, amigos y amigas del Lado Ciego. Está con nosotros Coach Tío Weidinger, que se ha puesto, como veis aquí abajo, Coach Tío. Estamos muy contentos. Lo primero que tengo que hacer es pedir disculpas porque Ancho Estevez no sé si podrá llegar por temas de trabajo, pero cuando pueda llegar él se incorporará. Hemos cerrado esta entrevista con Coach Weidinger debido a que ha sido campeón con Rhein Fire y debido a que pues, tiene un pasado brillante con Barcelona Dragons. Él nos ha hecho el gran favor de atender esta llamada, nuestra entrevista. Él está en Phoenix, Arizona. Hay una gran diferencia horaria y la mecánica será que yo haré la pregunta en castellano, luego se la traducirá en inglés, él contestará en inglés y traducirá en castellano. ¿Vale? Intentaremos hacerlo lo mejor posible y os pido ya también disculpas por mi inglés macarrónico de Lloret de Mar. Como cuando uno es adolescente e intenta ligar con extranjeras. Bueno, en fin. Coach, good afternoon here in Barcelona. Good morning there in Phoenix, Arizona.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, there in your country now, there is 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, 10. It's 10 o'clock right now. Yeah, so I'm up. I'm up and ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. Are you on holidays now or are you working in
when I am back here, I am a stay-at-home dad. So I run my kids to school and play with them when they're done. And otherwise, I'm living the dream right now. I don't have a whole lot to do.
Ok, le he preguntado si él está de vacaciones o está trabajando y él ha respondido que ahora mismo no tiene muchas cosas que hacer, salvo llevar a sus hijos al colegio y hacer cosas en el hogar con su mujer, etcétera, etcétera. Coach, you work, your first work as a European coach was in Potsdam Royals, I think it's GFL.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and
Yep.
you win Offensive Coach of the Year in GFL with your work in Potsdam Royals.
I don't think so. I don't know that they had awards. I would have considered myself. I would have given it to myself, but no, I'm just kidding. I did not win an award there. I don't know if they had awards, but I did not.
Okay, I read it this in Wikipedia, you know.
Maybe I edited my own Wikipedia then. It's hard to say.
Le he preguntado que si su primer trabajo en Europa fue como offensive coach de Potsdam Royals y le he preguntado si es cierto que ganó allí también el head coach del año en la GFL. Él me ha dicho que no es consciente de eso y que cree que no había premios a este nivel. Y yo le he dicho que lo había leído en la Wikipedia y bueno, pues esto le ha hecho gracia. Coach, what did you think about when you arrived at Europe and you work in GFL, then you work in Dragons, and now you work last season in Rhein Fire? What do you think about the different level of between GFL and ELF?
Yeah, so the first year that I was, the year I was in Potsdam, that was the first year of the ELF, and I didn't know anything about any differences between the two. I didn't even know it existed more than a couple months before I came out to do it. So the truth is, getting used to seeing the difference now, I don't know that there was much of a difference that first year. Some of the top teams had left. The Frankfurt Universe had left, become the Galaxy. You're seeing it more so now with the Surge, the Unicorns, 15 guys going to the Surge. It's kind of watering down the GFL a little bit, but I'm a firm believer that some of those top teams in the GFL could jump into the ELF and compete. They would have to adjust their rosters to the rules that we have. But I still think, there's probably 2 or 3 teams in that league, Potsdam being one of them, that could jump in and could do just fine in our league.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger por las diferencias que él ve entre de juego entre la ELF y la GLF y él me dice que él cuando empezó a entrenar en Europa no era consciente de que había la ELF, ni siquiera lo sabía, y que con el paso de estos 2 años él se ha dado cuenta de que sí que hay una diferencia de nivel, pero que los equipos punteros de la GLF podrían competir en la ELF con algunos ajustes de roster debidos a, sobre todo, el cambio de reglamentación, pero entiende que los equipos punteros de la GLF podrían competir tranquilamente en la ELF. And Coach, how is Jim Tonsula as a boss?
He's awesome. He is absolutely awesome. The guy is such a great person. He makes sure that I'm taken care of. He makes sure that my family's taken care of. There are no issues. There's no little things that pop up. And if they do pop up, they get solved immediately. It's a matter of respect, and the respect that he shows to me and my family is something that I can never, ever repay the guy for. He's been an outstanding boss. And when it comes down to football, he knows that I know what I'm doing, and he lets me do my thing. And, the only times we really talk during a game are just kind of strategy things. And then sometimes he'll come up and be like, hey, we're going to run this game out. We're going to, shorten the clock down. I said, we're from the same school. We're both children of the NFL. That's where we learned most of what we know about football. And when it's time to run a game out, it's time to run a game out. And so we're always on the same page. So he's been outstanding.
It's easy to work with him. Yeah,
it's the easiest thing in the world. Easiest thing in the world.
Le he preguntado por cómo es Jim Tomsula como jefe. Él ha dicho que es una persona estupenda, que le ha ayudado mucho con su familia para que se adapten, con sus hijos, y ha venido a decir que trabajar con él es absolutamente fácil, es lo más fácil del mundo, que se han entendido muy bien, tanto a nivel personal como a nivel deportivo, ¿no? Y que es un tío que sabe mucho y que pues se aprende mucho con él. Coach, you have been Coach of the Year 2022, Offensive Coordinator of the Year 2023. What is your limit in Europe?
It's awesome to get that recognition. I firmly believe that football is a player-driven sport. There's only so much coaches can do. And like I like to say, coaches don't catch passes. Coaches don't make tackles. On the flip side of that, coaches don't drop balls. Coaches don't, bust assignments. But I've been very fortunate to have very good players, both places I've been in the ELF, and those guys have really driven the success. And I've just tried to give them the tools to maximize their abilities, try to put together plans that maximize what as a group we've been best at. And there's times I feel like I've done a really good job of that. And then there's been a few games where I feel like I haven't done a very good job of that. But this year, with the volume of players we had who were good players, it's rare in Europe that you find a team that has a tight end and a fullback. And we had 2 tight ends and a fullback. So we were able to give people a lot of looks that they weren't used to getting, which really helped us kind of give us an advantage, forcing teams to play our game instead of playing into their hands. And, those players they're the reason that I've experienced success and have gotten those awards, because everybody knows football. There are no individual awards in football. They're team awards. And I owe everything to all those players.
Le he preguntado, le he recordado que él fue entrenador del año en 2022, Offensive Coordinator del año en 2023, y le he preguntado cuál es su límite. Entonces él me dice que está muy honrado por estos premios individuales, pero que el fútbol es un juego de equipo, que todo el mérito es de los jugadores, que ellos son, o sea, que los entrenadores no son los que hacen pases o touchdowns o hacen carreras, y que en los 2 años que ha estado en la ILF ha tenido grandes grupos de jugadores, pero que sobre todo este año ha tenido un grupo extraordinario, incluso cubriendo posiciones difíciles de cubrir en Europa, como la de tight end y la de fullback, y él ha dicho que este año han tenido 2 tight ends y 2 fullbacks, y que todo el mérito de sus éxitos individuales hay que dárselos a los jugadores, que él ha habido veces que ha estado bien, ha habido veces que ha estado mal, pero que los jugadores siempre son los culpables de los éxitos, de sus éxitos personales, que son éxitos de equipo. Coach, will you continue coaching at Rhein Fire, or you have calls of other franchise and you go out?
My plan right now is to stay with the Fire. Like I said, Coach Tomsula is awesome. Everything they do for me is top notch. In terms of an organization, like we talked about, there might not be anybody better in Europe. They take care of their guys. They take, from top to bottom, they take care of everybody. And, a passionate fan base, a lot of fans. They've got, they have the finances to make sure everything works. Coach Jim and I both see things from the same lens, both coming from the NFL. What's right, what's wrong, how you treat people, those sorts of things. We all seem the same way. And I don't see any reason that I would want to leave there. You never know. You can never say never, but I'd be very surprised if I leave the Rhein Fire anytime soon.
Le he preguntado si él va a seguir en Rhein Fire como asistente de ataque. Él me ha dicho que no tiene ninguna razón para cambiar, que es una organización fantástica, que se entiende muy bien con Jim Tonchula, que la organización de Rhein Fire cuida mucho a los jugadores, cuida mucho al staff, que él está muy compenetrado con Jim Tonchula, que ambos vienen de la NFL, que esto se nota, que ambos están de acuerdo en lo que está bien, en lo que está mal, en cómo mejorar, y que Rhein Fire tiene una estructura fantástica, una fanbase, unos seguidores muy apasionados y muy numerosos, y que por tanto él entiende que no tiene por qué cambiar y que en su mente para nada está cambiar de... bueno, sí, también ha dicho que Rhein Fire tiene una salud económica, pues buena salud económica, y que por lo tanto él no tiene ninguna intención de cambiar. Coach, Fire ends 2023 season undefeated. It has been an easy season for Rhein Fire as it looks, or as it seems.
Yeah, it's funny, as a coach, there's a lot of times where we'd be up on somebody, and the assistant coach would be saying, hey, can we send in the twos now, or the backups, give them some work. And I've always been, as a coach, anytime you're in a game, and regardless of what the score is, all you're thinking is like, this thing's way closer than it really feels. Or it feels way closer than it really is. I know when I watch NFL games on TV and say the Titans are up 17 points, you're thinking like, this game's over. And I know if I was on the sideline for the Titans, I'd be like, this thing's way close. Like, we need to make sure that we finish this thing out the right way. And so there's a lot of times where it probably looked like it was easy. It didn't feel like it was easy. But I do understand where the fans come from. There's a lot of times after games where people are saying, hey, that you guys got to make these games more exciting. That was boring. And I'm like, I was tense for about 2 hours and 45 minutes right there, and couldn't relax until the last 15 minutes and the defense was on the field. So I know there's a fan perspective to it, and then my perspective, and I think a lot of coaches share that perspective, is it's never easy. It's never as close or it's always closer than you think. And you got to keep executing until the final whistle blows.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger si la temporada para Rhein Fire ha sido tan fácil como parece, porque la han acabado imbatidos. Y coach Weidinger me dice que generalmente las cosas son mucho más duras y más difíciles de lo que parecen, que sobre todo viéndolo desde la banda como entrenador, siempre hay cosas que le generan intranquilidad. Que él, cuando ve un partido de la NFL por la tele, cuando lo ve 17-0, también piensa, bueno, esto ya está acabado y no hay nada que hacer, pero que los fans, algunos fans de Rhein Fire le han dicho que, oye, tío, nos aburrimos porque ganamos siempre, y a ver si encontramos alguna forma de hacer los partidos más divertidos, pero él dice que la temporada no ha sido para nada tan fácil como parece, que han tenido que trabajar mucho y que no se ha podido relajar en muchos partidos hasta el final absoluto del partido. And coach, what about the final game, the championship game? Surge compete more than we expect. Is that the same thing, the same thought for you? You thought that Surge have surprised you as a coach with your competitive?
Yeah, going into it, I ran the whole spectrum of emotions as we were getting ready for that game. When I first turned on the tape and was watching them, I was thinking, boy, it's going to be really hard to move the ball on these guys. This is a pretty good front. And I always lose sight of how good our front is as well. Our offensive, front six with the tight end, O-line and tight end, that we can handle just about anything that anybody's going to throw at us. We proved that this year. Nobody threw anything at us that we couldn't handle up front. And so as the week went on, I got a lot more comfortable that we were going to be able to move the ball offensively, that we're going to be able to score some points. We ended up putting up 50 on them, which I don't know that after week 2, I think we scored over 40 every week after that. We kind of found our footing, figured out who we were. But the Surge, we knew their offense was really good. We knew that Darryl Stewart is a really good player, that they're going to be able to get the ball in his hands. We knew that their other receivers, 14. I'm drawing a blank on the other guy, but they had, tall, long guys who could run. We knew it was going to be a battle. And we were a little beat up. Everybody at that point in the season is beat up, but Alejandro was out. Our starting corner was out. We knew those were going to be, in terms of stopping their pass game, our best pass rusher and our best corner not in the game becomes an issue. So we were fortunate we were able to go out and outscore them. They kept it close almost the entire game, which was a testament to that. I mean, you remember when we played them last time, it was 70-0 in Barcelona. So it's good to see that teams can turn it around like that. I know those guys who run the Surge. A couple of the guys in their front office are awesome people. Really, really cool to see them to do what they were able to do this year. With that said, I'm glad that we beat them.
Le he preguntado cuáles eran sus pensamientos sobre la final, porque al menos algunos habíamos pensado pensábamos que Surge había competido más de lo que esperábamos. Y él ha respondido, así a grandes rasgos, os lo digo, ha respondido que ellos ya esperaban que Surge fuera un gran rival, porque tiene un gran equipo de ataque, porque tiene una offensive line muy seria, porque tiene unos receptores que son capaces de recibir y de correr, tanto de recibir como de correr. Habían estudiado la trayectoria del equipo, que había perdido pocos partidos, que había ganado de forma consistente, y entonces él lo que nos dice es que fue un partido durísimo y que ellos sí se esperaban, porque además Rhein Fire tenía algunas bajas, como Alejandro Fernández y alguno más, y ellos nunca dieron el partido por ganado hasta que ya cogieron ventaja hacia el final del partido. Coach, who is for you the best Fire player? Maybe Jedrian Clark, maybe Glenn Tunga, maybe Sofian Dardur. What a play made in the championship game with that fumble cost, or maybe Harlan Kwafi, Nathaniel Robitaille. Who?
Yeah, my MVP is a guy named Yazir Raji. Yazir Raji is a lineman that I had in Potsdam my first year in Europe. And the guy can do everything. He's just an all-around stud. He's as strong as any of those other linemen, and he weighs, I'm going to go pounds here, but, a lot of those linemen are right around 300 pounds. He weighs about 260, so he can do everything that those other guys can do in terms of strength, but at 40 pounds lighter, which means he can move around a whole lot better. And so we use him as a tight end a lot. We use him in a lot of different aspects. I love putting him at the point of attack because he's strong. There is no better point of attack blocker in all of Europe from what I've seen. And it's not even close. The guy moves people. When he wants to move somebody, they get moved. And so the comfort level that he gives me in terms of game planning, in terms of knowing that responsibility is handled, that he will have no issues. He's my MVP. Now, that's on a team that has, like you said, we got the guy who was named the league MVP with a ridiculous amount of touchdown passes. We've got Anthony Mahangu, who made it to an NFL training camp coming out of college. We've got Alejandro Fernandez, who's the best European defender in the league. We've got Harlan Kwafi, who's probably the best German receiver in the league. We call Harlan Yazir, who can catch. Because Harlan, he's a great point of attack blocker too. That guy, he's a dog. He'll do whatever is asked of him. I'm gonna shoot. You mentioned Nate Robitaille, who's an icon in Europe. He's played forever. We had the American who filled in for Nate while he was hurt. He did an awesome job. I know I'm just naming names after names. All 5 of our linemen are really good players. It was naming a true MVP on that team is tough. Who really is the best player is hard because you get into apples to oranges comparisons from position to position. But Yazir Raji, he made my life easy and gives me a comfort level coming up with a plan. And for me, he's my MVP.
Thanks. Le preguntaba al coach Weidinger cuál es para él el jugador más valioso de los Rhein Fire esta temporada. Le da algunos nombres, los más conocidos: Jedrian Clark, Glenn Tunga, Sofian Dardur, Harlan Kwafi o Nathaniel Robitaille. Él lo que ha respondido es que para él el MVP de Fire de esta temporada es un línea que se llama Rogi, que ya estuvo con él en Potsdam Royals, que lo conoce desde entonces. Dice que lo ha utilizado tanto de línea como de tight end. y que es un tío que sabe bloquear muy bien, que sabe hacer muy bien su trabajo y que le da la tranquilidad de saber que por su lado todo va a ir bien en un partido y que él va a cumplir con su cometido. Luego también nos ha dicho que todos los nombres que le he dicho, pues que eran importantes, que tenían su importancia, pero que para él era Rogi, línea de ataque, su jugador favorito. The last question about Rhein Fire is, what is the Rhein Fire 11 compared to NCAA teams?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't been in college football for so long, but when you start talking about like a D1 football team, I don't know that there's very many people in our league who are capable of playing D1 college football. Because it's just, and it's that's going to change over time. Right now, as Americans, we grow up, we're playing football from 6 years old. There's good coaching. Kids nowadays have 2 football seasons, which might not be too foreign to, I know in the Spanish landscape, there might be 2 seasons going on there. That was kind of when I grew up, there was 1 season, just 1. But there's a lot of football being played and a lot of kids developing skills at younger ages here. And so I don't think that an ELF team could compete. I don't know that with a D1 team, no chance, in my opinion. I don't really know, what plays at a Division I school these days. I do know that we have Americans coming over who did not play D1, who dominate in our league. And so I think that kind of speaks to, it would be very hard, very, very hard for a team here to compete at a higher level in the United States. But maybe D2, D3, I don't know. It's definitely possible. It's possible. Those are kind of leagues that I'm not overly familiar with the skill level at those levels.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger si los Rhein Fire actuales serían capaces de competir en la NCAA, si su nivel es comparable con los equipos punteros. Él me ha dicho que de ninguna manera, que no hay nada que hacer, sobre todo a nivel defensivo. No podrían hacer nada Rhein Fire contra un equipo de la NCAA, de las divisiones dominantes. Por varias cosas, pues porque allí los jugadores empiezan a jugar desde muy pequeñitos, viven con el fútbol americano desde que tienen 6 años, que esto evidentemente aquí no pasa, pero dice que aquí el nivel irá subiendo poco a poco y que con los imports americanos que vienen y el trabajo que se está haciendo en Europa, él cree que Rhein Fire podría competir con equipos de la División 2 o de División 3 de NCAA, que entre nosotros y sin que nadie, ahora que nadie les oye y sin que salga de aquí, no sé qué es la D2 y D3, supongo que son divisiones menores o segundas divisiones de la NCAA. Coach, let me tell you some questions about the ELF. Who is your favorite European player in all the ELF?
So the easiest answer is the guys. So I took a lot of heat when we were starting up. The European players couldn't join practice for, I don't know, a week or whatever. And so we were practicing for a week. And so every time we made a play on offense, as we're watching tape, I'm telling the guys, like, it's not going to be that easy once Alejandro shows up. You guys are in trouble. Like, none of you guys can block that guy. Like, you just wait. Once he gets here, he's going to eat you alive. And so anytime somebody blocked Alejandro, it was a big deal. They were having, they'd make fun of me and, oh, yeah, that's your boy, huh? But I love Alejandro. Him and Xavier Sanchiz, those are my 2 favorite players that I've had so far. But they go into a laundry list of guys. When I won that award a couple weeks ago, the Coach of the Year deal, I hadn't really prepared. They gave me the opportunity to speak. I hadn't really prepared for that, and kind of popped in my head that the appreciation I have for every player that I've had in my time in Europe. There's a time when I left the NFL, I didn't like football. I didn't want to do football ever again.
No,
I was sick and tired of it. I'd had enough. It's cool. It's all fun and games on TV, but it is a job.
yeah.
And I had lost my passion for that job. I didn't enjoy it anymore. And then after a couple of years, I said, yeah, I kind of like football. And coming to Europe and meeting all these players and seeing their passion for the game and their desire to get better and their love for playing it, that's really, every single one of them has done something for me to help me find my passion for the game again. And so I love every last one of them, even the ones that were hard to deal with. And there wasn't many of them because those guys, just seeing them happy, seeing them have success, that's done wonders for me. So I love every last one of them, but I'm going to throw Alejandro and Xavier at the top for right now.
Ok. Le he preguntado que cuál es para él su jugador preferido europeo de la ILF y él me habla de Rossi, que es el jugador que nos ha dicho antes, y de Alejandro Fernández, por la pasión, por las ganas, por el trabajo, y que cualquiera de ellos podría ser, que en general le gustan mucho todos los jugadores europeos, porque él ha dicho una cosa que no sabía yo, y es que él había perdido las ganas de entrenar cuando estaba en Estados Unidos, y que venir a Europa, él pensaba en retirarse, y que cuando vino a Europa, en retirarse, en dejar el fútbol, y cuando él vino a Europa, ver la entrega de los jugadores europeos hizo que volviera a tener ganas de entrenar de nuevo. Entonces, pues, pero dice que sus jugadores favoritos son Alejandro Fernández y Rossi, que nos ha dicho antes. What is your opinion on the changes in the ALF in order to limit the number of imports for 2024 season? Do you think this is a big disadvantage for non-German teams?
Yeah, I think that'd be catastrophic. Teams that don't have the homegrown talent base that we do in Germany, I just have no idea how you compete if you only have 4. And I understand the flip side of the argument that, one of the owners for the Rhein Fire had made a point about this on Twitter. And a lot of people were saying that it was just, he was being a baby and they just want continued Rhein Fire dominance. But you look at some of these teams that are 20 years behind Germany and Austria in terms of progress, in terms of football, football being popular, Spain being one of them. Football is not as popular there as it is in Germany and Austria. It's a fact of life. And I always go to, and I could be dead wrong with this analogy, but the dream team, the Olympic basketball team in 1992 that the United States sent, the first time sending pro players to the Olympics. And that really, it feels like that sparked the international basketball world and generated interest. And now all of a sudden you have all these players, and I wish I knew basketball better, but you got your Dirk Nowitzki's, you've got your Pau Gasol, your Marc Gasol, you got all those guys now all of a sudden became interested in the sport. I don't know if that, for those guys in particular, if that was the catalyst, but it took from 92 until now-ish, 20, 30, 40 years for all these things to come together and for the sport to rise up in other countries to a level where they can compete with the Americans who do it all the time. And I think that some of these other countries, your team that was in Istanbul, team that was in Prague, team that, 2 teams in Spain now, when you're in a country that doesn't have, there's a jump. The Germans and Austrians have a 20-year jump on you. And like, how are you going to close that gap? There's only one way, and that's to bring in the E players, because otherwise you're at a disadvantage. And, I personally think it's not a good move. I understand that it's a cost-cutting move, that it helps generate hometown heroes, which is what they want. They want these teams to be kind of hometownish teams. But I just, there's teams that need those players much more than other teams. And to take them away from those teams, like, there's holes that will not be filled. And all it takes is one hole. We know, if I know you got a hole on defense, we're going to go after it. There's going to be holes that are not filled because these guys are not going to have the opportunity if they go ahead with the plan. And, I don't know if they will or won't. I hope they don't.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger sobre sus pensamientos sobre la regla que se está discutiendo de que se limiten a 4 el número de imports europeos para los equipos de la ILF. Él me ha dicho que, bajo su opinión, es una medida catastrófica. La ha calificado como catastrófica, literalmente. Él ha dicho que no se puede comparar el nivel de los equipos que hay en Alemania con el nivel de los equipos que hay en Alemania, en Austria, con el nivel de los equipos de otros países. Ha dicho literalmente que los países que no son Alemania van 20 años por detrás en cuanto a habilidades con el fútbol americano en cuanto a tener potencial nacional para el fútbol americano, y que él entiende que es una mala medida, que espera que no se aplique y que entiende que será un desastre. Ha hecho una analogía con el equipo olímpico norteamericano de 1992 de baloncesto, diciendo que en aquella época era imposible pensar que los hermanos Gasol acabaran compitiendo con americanos en la NFL, en la NBA, y que para eso han tenido que pasar pues como 30, 40 años desde aquel hito, ¿no? Que viniera el Dream Team a jugar a las Olimpiadas a Barcelona. Y que esta chispa que encendió el interés por el fútbol americano entre los jóvenes para que jugaran en el fútbol americano no está, y que entiende que no hay nivel y que va a ser un desastre, y que espera que no se lleve a cabo. Due to the issues with Rams, Kings, Enthroners, Centurions, Dragons too, about economic problems, do you think that the ELF has a future as a European league, not German league?
There's a lot I don't know or understand about the finances of the league, and I don't want to. But I think that we obviously saw this year that there's chinks in the armor. There might be issues. I shouldn't say might. We've had 2 teams drop out, and other teams that are on the cusp of it. I do know that there's American investors coming in with money for a number of these teams to bail them out. Obviously, you guys have dealt with this with Jason coming in and his group coming in and putting up money. How much money, I don't know, but putting up money to help float these teams, keep them alive. It'll be very interesting to see where everything heads. I hope that it continues to succeed. I hope that it continues to be an international league. I know that the travel costs, people don't know, a football team it's not 50 players, it's 50 players, it's 20 staff. It's hard to travel. It's hard to house a team, get them on a plane, get them on a bus, whatever it is, and move them from one place to the other. And it becomes even harder when people don't show up to those games. And, I hope it can survive. I'm optimistic that it can, but, and maybe on the front end of this thing, there's some people that got involved in this that, didn't realize they were in over their heads and they're being bailed out now. Hopefully that's the case. And hopefully it's not just a systemic issue in terms of not having enough fans. And I think I speak for everybody in this regard that, fans need to show up. Barcelona fans, like you can't have 500 people come to the last game. It needs, if you love the Dragons and you love your team, like you have to show up or else there will not be a team anymore. I know that's easy for me to say. People are spending their hard-earned money and their time to go to these things, and maybe they're not satisfied with the product, but if you love your team, you have to go. You have to, otherwise your team will stop existing.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger si a raíz de los problemas económicos de Rams, Kings, Enthroners, Centurions o Dragons esta temporada, él veía futuro a la ILF o si él pensaba o si seguiría como una liga alemana solamente. Él ha dicho que no sabe nada de las finanzas de las franquicias de la ILF y que tampoco quiere, pero que nos ha dicho que hay problemas económicos, que los costes son muy elevados porque una franquicia de la ILF no solo hay que tener en cuenta los costes de 50 personas, jugadores, sino que hay 20 de staff, utilleros, masajistas que también se mueven con el equipo y que esto genera unos gastos extraordinarios, ¿no? Entonces, él dice que sabe que, por ejemplo, Jason Robinson ha venido a Barcelona para poner dinero, no sabe cuánto dinero se tiene que poner, pero que si no hay alguien que apueste por las franquicias inyectando económicamente a las que tengan problemas, pues que él ve un futuro difícil. Y sobre todo lo que ha venido hacia el final es que si queremos que Dragon se mantenga como equipo en activo de la ILF, hay que ir al campo, hay que seguirlos y hay que apoyarlos. Así que ya sabéis, ilegales, hay que ir a Tarrasa, a Santa Coloma, a Reus o donde sea. Coach, what is your opinion? Well, sorry, I don't know if you know that Munich Ravens has signed Joe Thomas. What do you think about people of this importance came to the NFL, to the ELF work here? What does it mean? What does it mean for the football and for the American football in Europe?
Yeah, I think that it's invaluable to have recognizable people like Joe Thomas, like Coach Tom Sula, names that people know, because it's very easy for fans to relate to that. Oh, I've heard that name before on television. I'd like to go see that guy in action. The one thing I do like to say is, Joe Thomas is going. Joe Thomas, obviously an incredible football player. I'm sure he's an incredible coach. The offensive line coach for the Munich Ravens this last season is a guy named Paul Dunn. I worked with Paul Dunn with the Atlanta Falcons for 6 or 7 years, and he was also the offensive line coach for the Houston Texans after that. So they had an NFL offensive line coach, somebody who wasn't as good a player. He had played at Pitt with Dan Marino back in the day, but wasn't an NFL guy, wasn't a Hall of Fame guy. But it's an interesting dilemma. They had a great coach. They had a guy who'd been there and done that in the NFL. Nobody cared. And now they've got a guy who's a recognizable name, and everybody's like, oh, this is awesome. So I think it's invaluable for the league to have recognizable faces, recognizable names. Does that necessarily translate to success on the field? I don't know. There's a big difference between playing and coaching. I'm not speaking to Joe Thomas here at all. Like I said, I'm sure he's going to do awesome. But that's always a thing. Are great players, do they translate to being great coaches? Are they great teachers? And hopefully if somebody wants to get involved with this, I'm guessing they are. So it is so cool that a guy like that is going to come and do this and bring extra visibility to this league. And as we all know, it's a league that desperately needs it because we've got teams that are on the brink, so no question, great move for the league.
Uh-huh. Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger, siguiendo la recomendación que nos ha hecho Ancho en el chat, sobre qué opinaba sobre que Munich Ravens había fichado a Joe Thomas. Él dice que es una gran noticia porque le da visibilidad a la liga y le da nombres como Joe Thomas o Jim Tom Sula. Nos ha dicho que Munich Ravens ya tenía un gran entrenador de línea ofensiva, que era un señor que se llama Paul Dunn, que había sido profesional, que había estado en Atlanta Falcons, pero que tiene un nombre que la gente no lo conoce. Entonces dice que a pesar de que Paul Dunn era un gran entrenador de línea, pues que él ve muy positivo que gente como que le sustituya, por ejemplo, Joe Thomas, porque le va a dar un nombre, un renombre a la liga que ahora no tiene y que necesita, las palabras han sido textuales, desesperadamente para salir adelante. Entonces, bueno, es una buena respuesta. Coach, the last questions are about Barcelona Dragons. Do you know that in 2024 there will be the 2 franchises in Spain, Barcelona and Madrid? Do you think Spain have the talented players, the number of talented players sufficient to eat, to fill these 2 franchises?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. We had it. I had the good fortune at the kickoff event in Dusseldorf. I met Jaime, and I'm drawing a blank on Jaime's last name, but one of the principal owners of the Madrid team. They have an outstanding plan. They've got a great blueprint. They've got a great facility. It's very, very impressive what those guys are doing. They are not messing around. They've got the resources and a plan in place to compete. And then obviously the Dragons undergoing some changes. I'm confident that they'll come out with a great plan to compete as well. But when it comes to divvying up all the players, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that I've been told there's a lot of players in the Madrid area who, for one reason or the other, didn't want to make the trip down to play with us, with the Dragons. To what extent, I don't know who those guys are. I don't know how good they are. So hopefully there's at least a decent sized pocket of guys so that you can put together 2 teams. I think in any country that's not Germany or Austria right now, like I've kind of alluded to, it's going to be very hard to have 2 teams. So I don't think it's an issue specific to Spain, but it'll be tough. It'll be tough. And Madrid is definitely, I firmly believe that's a force to be reckoned with after talking at that event and seeing what they're planning on doing. Because they are clearly ready to go. And so both teams, I hope both teams are competitive. I hope both teams are as good as humanly possible. But it's going to be tough. Both teams are going to have to come out and they're going to have to recruit hard, and they're going to have to figure out how to navigate a landscape that drastically changes without being able to provide housing by ELF rules, which in a country like Germany is easy. Everybody on our team drives to our practices. They live close enough to drive. You're talking guys that live in the middle of the country. How are they going to get to practice? Because they can't be housed. You can no longer house these guys. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough and very interesting. And whoever figures out how to bend those rules the best and without breaking them, I think that's who's going to have the edge. Because you're going to have to do something if you want to get the guys that have a decent amount of ways to travel one direction or the other to play. You're going to have to do something that's not necessarily on the up and up. But I won't tell anybody. I'll never say anything. I'm good. I just want to see competitive teams.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger qué pensaba él de que hubiera dos franquicias en España en el próximo año. Él nos ha comentado que en los actos previos a la final de la ILF estuvo hablando con el general manager de la franquicia de Madrid, que le impresionó lo que le contó, que él cree que Madrid va a entrar con mucha fuerza, que lo tiene todo muy bien pensado, que lo tiene todo muy bien atado y que cree que el equipo de Madrid funcionará. También ha dicho que en los equipos que no son alemanes, esta regla de que, o sea, que haya dos equipos del mismo país en países que no son Alemania, que les creará muchísimos problemas, por lo que ha dicho antes también, de que no hay tanto talento como en Alemania, por ejemplo, ¿no? Y también ha dicho que la nueva regla que prohíbe a los equipos ofrecer alojamiento a los jugadores cuando hay dos equipos del mismo país, que esto en Alemania funciona muy bien, porque en Alemania la mayoría de jugadores van a entrenar en su propio coche y están muy cerca de las distintas sedes, pero que claro que en España no, que en España unos están en una punta, otros están en el centro, y que ven muy complicada la relación entre calidad y competitividad de entrada para los equipos, y que espera que Barcelona Dragons haga movimientos inteligentes, no he dicho inteligentes, pero que haga movimientos interesantes, porque su teatro de operaciones ha cambiado radicalmente de una temporada a otra y que va a tener que tomar decisiones y hacer cosas que no había hecho hasta ahora, y espera que Jason Robinson lo haga, porque él lo que quiere ver es equipos competitivos en la ILF, pero que será muy duro, que será muy complicado y que será muy difícil que ambas franquicias sean competitivas. Coach, what difference have you seen before Dragons organization and Fire organization?
They're just not really two comparable entities. The the Fire, we're playing, what's the right way to say it? It's we're playing rich man's football. We have the fan base that can support us in whatever it is we want to do. And I mean that in terms of numbers and financially. We have a lot of experience in terms of running football teams. And we have a guy at the top in Coach Tom Sula who's going to make sure that what he feels is right is the way that is the things that's what we're going to do. And that's the direction we're going to head. There is a level of, guys that have been there and done that. That's invaluable. You cannot replace that. There's a lot. I think probably a lot of teams in our league are figuring it out on the fly. And if you haven't been there, done that, and he's got a lifetime of being there and doing that. I'm not on his level, but my entire life has been around Division I and NFL football, my entire adult life, from 17 or 18 forward. There's do's and don'ts that certainly apply to this sport, and I think that I hope that these other teams can take what we're doing or what he's doing as a model. And I know a lot of teams do come and watch our games and ask questions and try to get it right, or at least the version of right that we have. And I hope that spreads, because teams need some of that. That element needs to be a little more. I'm trying to be very political here. I'm not saying it right, but that element that people who have that experience, those people are invaluable to organizations, and I think everybody would be wise to bring on or to consult with people who have that sort of experience.
Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger qué diferencias había entre Dragons y Fire, entre las dos organizaciones. Él rápidamente respondió que no eran comparables porque en Rhein Fire ellos jugaban, ha dicho literalmente, el fútbol de los ricos. Es decir, que es una franquicia económicamente potente, con mucha experiencia, que tiene al frente a alguien carismático y que sabe mucho como Jin Tonsula, y que pues y que había una gran diferencia entre Dragons y otros equipos y Fire en este sentido, ¿no? Y que esto pues afectaba básicamente a todo. También nos ha dicho que algunas franquicias cuando iban a jugar a Rhein Fire les preguntaban por cómo hacían las cosas para aprender, ¿no? Y él decía que los gestores de las franquicias menos potentes económicamente tenían que tomar decisiones inteligentes y intentar salir adelante, pero que no era comparable una con otra y que tampoco quería comparar, ¿no? Can you tell us, please, what was the process of your recruitment for Barcelona Dragons? Who calls you? Why you decide to come to the Potsdam Royals to Barcelona Dragons, and what was the process?
Yeah. So after we had finished in Potsdam, my children at the time, this was 3 years ago, my children were 5 and 2. And that's, it was very difficult going to Germany. My wife, she's fortunate, her job, she can work from home. Excuse me. We're just coming out of the pandemic there. So a lot of things were still shut down. It was a very hard situation, especially on my wife dealing with kids while I was at practice or putting together game plans. And we had decided we weren't going to do it anymore until our kids were older. And it was kind of on a whim that we'd even decide to do it in the first place. The coach from the Panthers, Jacob Samuel, he had got me introduced to the entire idea that football existed in Europe. And I thought that would be a cool deal. And it was just, it came together with Potsdam and we said, okay, let's try it. But that season ended. We decided we would not do it again. My wife had done a study abroad in Spain, in Madrid, I believe, when she was much younger. And so we were just sitting at home. And one day I got an email. Would you be interested in coming to the Dragons, coaching in Spain? And it's funny, I'd gotten a few of those, and I always kind of forward them to my wife, and she'd be like, nope, we're not going to, middle of nowhere to do that anymore. And then when I said, hey, what about Barcelona? She said she was all in. She wanted to go do it. So we jumped on the phone. Literally a couple minutes later, they offered me the job. And so I talked it over with my wife, and we decided to do it. And the rest is history. It was a great experience. And I can't, while I got the opportunity right now, and I know I keep talking and I'm making it hard on you to repeat what I'm saying, but on my phone a couple of days ago, I got a little pop-up from our game against Hamburg at home in that driving rainstorm. And it was a video of everybody on our sideline, all you nut jobs from the other side, giving the fans or the other team a hard time on our side now, singing over there with us and keeping the crowd entertained. And it reminded me of how much fun it was being there. People have asked me, winning the championship, is that most fun you've ever had in football? Like, not even close. The amount of fun that we had last season in Barcelona, those players, the fans, the coaches, that was an outstanding experience. I love those people to death. I wish it could have lasted longer, but sometimes it's best that those things don't. And it will always be, it's going to be very hard to ever top that. Very, very hard to ever top that. That's, as of this point in my life, 41 years, that's the most fun I've ever had in football.
Uh-huh. Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger que nos explicara cómo fue su proceso de reclutamiento por Barcelona Dragons. Él nos ha explicado que estaba en Potsdam Royals, que su mujer estaba cansada de estar allí, que tenía 2 niños pequeños, uno de 5 y uno de 2, y que también nos ha explicado que su mujer había estudiado en España cuando era joven y que cuando recibieron un email de Barcelona Dragons, él se lo comentó a su esposa y decidieron que si había la más mínima posibilidad vendrían aquí, que cuando recibieron la llamada saltaron al teléfono y que fue todo pues como muy fácil, ¿no? Nos ha dicho también que su experiencia en Barcelona Dragons fue espectacular, que le encantaba la pasión de los seguidores de Barcelona Dragons, que recuerda el último partido que estaba lloviendo a cántaros contra Sea Devils y que le recordó aquel partido, le recordó por qué le gusta el fútbol americano y que a veces las cosas salen bien, a veces las cosas salen mal, hubo cosas que funcionaron, cosas que no, pero que él tuvo una gran experiencia, una de las mejores experiencias desde que está relacionado con el fútbol americano. Coach, 2022 season was a great one for Dragons, for Dragon fans, but I remember Dragons almost won in Reus at Vienna Vikings. And the team competed until the end in their Vienna Stadium at regular season game, but not in the playoff game. What was the reason about the bad image Dragons gave at the half-final game in Vienna? Lack of preparation, bad atmosphere in the locker room, too much physical or mental fatigue? What happens?
Yeah, I've only watched, I watched that one time, the tape. I've watched it one time. It was basically to put together our scrimmage practice this season so that we were playing Frankfurt week 1. And I just went and I took plays from that game and ran them in that practice so that Frankfurt wouldn't know what we were going to really do week 1. Looking back on it, I believe there was an element of fatigue. I don't know, the end of any season, it's particularly difficult for guys, in my opinion, import players, because it's a long time away from home. It's hard on me. It's a long time away from home. You're not in your room. You're not in your bed. You don't have your pillow sometimes. Like, it's tough. It's hard to go and do an entire season and endure that, and come out on the back end with as much passion as you had on the front end, because it's exhausting. And we had a lot of things that were very exhausting that season. And I think that you could see some of that exhaustion in our guys at the end of the year. Also, that was the first time we'd faced Vienna as close as they could be to full strength. They had a significant number of injuries that year. It's tough to imagine what they really would have been if they hadn't suffered all those injuries. But their American defensive end, that was the first time he had played. We had a really hard time containing him. We did not think it was going, he was an undersized guy, and we got Big Eddie and Gabby, two monstrous tackles. We thought we'd be able to control him, and we really struggled to control him. He affected the game greatly. So I think there's obviously a lot at play. I feel like I got out-coached in that game. If you take the fatigue, you take me not doing a great job, not winning the coaching aspect of the game, and then them being as close to full strength as they could be, I think that contributed to the whole thing. What the real answer is, nobody really knows. It's impossible to know. There's a million things that can go right or wrong in a football game, but certainly a disappointing day, especially given how we'd competed with that group in the past.
Le he dicho al coach Weidinger que la temporada en la que él estuvo aquí fue muy buena, que habíamos competido con Vienna Vikings en el partido de casa, que casi habíamos ganado, que habíamos competido hasta el final en Viena en la regular season, pero que no pasó esto en las semifinales. Y le he preguntado por qué se dio tan mala imagen, si fue por una falta de preparación, si fue porque había un mal rollo en el vestuario o si fue por fatiga física o mental. Él lo que me ha dicho es que fue una temporada muy dura, tanto para él como para los jugadores, que al final de temporada, a los finales de temporada siempre son durísimos, que los jugadores acusaban mucho fatiga física y mental, igual que él estaba pues fuera de su casa, fuera de su ambiente, fuera de su entorno, que también Viena se encontraron que tenían ellos, Dragons, muchas bajas para ese partido, y que Viena realmente pues no pudieron controlar el juego de Viena, ¿no? Y básicamente ha dicho, ¿cuál fue el motivo real? ¿Quién lo sabe, no? Hay muchos factores que influyen en un partido de fútbol americano y posiblemente fuera la conjunción de todos ellos. Esta ha sido la respuesta del coach Weidinger. Coach, there's a story running in Barcelona and many people say that at some point in 2022 season, you and Giorgio Tavecchio pay the players' wages, the salaries. Is this true?
No. We never paid anybody's wages. Never did that. Might have helped out some guys that maybe needed $1 here or there to get food, things like that. But we weren't paying anybody's wages. There's you'd have to double check with George on that. I'd be shocked if he was. But we had a couple guys that needed some help. Just getting food, things like that. Nothing serious. So love those guys. I'm more than happy to help them out. But small things, all small things.
Uh-huh. Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger que hay una historia que corre por Barcelona, ¿no? Y que mucha gente dice que en algún punto de la temporada 2022, tanto él como Tavecchio pagaron las nóminas de los jugadores. Le he preguntado si es cierto, él me ha dicho radicalmente que no, que ellos nunca pagaron nóminas de los jugadores, pero que sí, si alguna vez algún jugador había tenido problemas o había necesitado de ayuda económica, ellos se la habían dado para pequeñas cosas, es lo que la palabra que ha utilizado, pero que nunca pagaron los sueldos de los jugadores. Coach, Barcelona Dragons have paid yet the debts that they have with you?
That
economical debts.
Yeah. I'd rather not talk about that. But the Dragons owe me nothing. Dragons owe me nothing.
Ok. Dice que no. Le he preguntado si los Dragons ya le han pagado las deudas económicas que tenían con él. Me ha dicho que no quería hablar de esto, pero que los Dragons ya no le den nada. Can you explain us when you decided to leave Barcelona Dragons? What's the moment you took that decision? We are crying now.
Yeah,
for this decision.
When I finally committed to go to the Rhein Fire, was we had finished the season. We had been eliminated by Vienna. I actually spoke with Coach Tom Sula when we were the next morning. After that game, but there was no one incident that had led me to that decision prior to that. I just knew that I couldn't go back there, and I'll leave it at that. I'll say I wasn't going back, and they weren't going to have me back.
Yeah. Le he preguntado al coach Weidinger cuándo tomó la decisión de irse de Barcelona Dragons durante la temporada 2022. Él me ha dicho que habló con Tom Shula, o sea, que Tom Shula habló con él cuando perdieron la semifinal con Viena y que no hay un momento previo a ese en el que él tuviera tomada una decisión de marcharse. Que por lo tanto, pues esto de que, esto lo digo yo, esto de que había dejado de trabajar para ir porque ya tenía un acuerdo con Rhein Fire, pues no, él dice que no, porque dice que él no habló con Tom Shula hasta que acabó el partido de la semifinal con Viena. Have you followed 2023 Barcelona Dragon season? What are your thoughts about that?
I saw that when we had common opponents, I would pull the Dragons tape against them. So Munich, Stuttgart, mostly I would pull red zone tape to look, you always watch other teams to try to steal ideas, see if somebody, can exploit something, and hey, can we also exploit that? So I haven't seen a lot. I saw a little bit, mostly red zone, all offensive tape from the Dragons. I know they started out really good, and I know that things didn't go well after that. I don't know why. I don't know much about it because it's hard to keep up when you're worried about yourself. I'm really sorry to see that. Those guys, they play with such heart and passion, and such an awesome group of guys. It was tough to see them continue to lose, and I wish that wasn't the case. And hopefully, moving forward, that won't be the case. It's a tough situation. You never know. The coaching, obviously, not a problem. Coach Black did an amazing job when we were all there. He didn't forget how to coach. I guarantee you that. So what happened? I don't know. And it's impossible for me to have an educated opinion on the topic because I didn't see enough Dragons football.
Le he preguntado si ha seguido la temporada de Barcelona Dragons y cuáles eran sus pensamientos sobre lo que ha pasado aquí. Entonces él me ha dicho que no había visto mucho a los Barcelona Dragons porque no eran rivales directos. Él evidentemente tenía que estudiar a los equipos con los que se enfrentaba, pero que sí que había visto algunas jugadas de Redstone y tal por ver si podía coger alguna idea para su equipo y tal y cual. Él lo que ha dicho es que le ha sabido mal ver que Dragons perdía, que empezaron bien, que esto le ha gustado, pero que le ha sabido mal ver cómo Dragons iba perdiendo todos los partidos, que él estaba convencido de que teníamos un grupo de jugadores que luchaban y muy apasionados y tal, y que el coach Black estaba absolutamente preparado para hacer la tarea, que es un buen entrenador, para hacer la tarea de head coach, pero que desgraciadamente no ha sido así, no ha salido bien la cosa, y que él desea que Dragons pueda volver a salir adelante y resurja deportivamente en próximas temporadas. So, do you think that you worked with Coach Black 2 seasons ago, and you think that Coach Black is good prepared for being a head coach?
Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely. No question in my mind. He did an awesome job with that defense. There's a million things that go into winning and losing football games, and coaching, like I've said, is maybe the smallest part. So yeah, I guarantee you, he coached his ass off. I guarantee that. I guarantee he was doing everything he could. And he's a very, very good coach, which we've all seen. And you know what? It's low hanging fruit to always blame coaches when things go wrong, especially in football. And I don't know, how it is internationally, but in the United States, every time an NFL team loses, their fan base is saying, fire this coach, like get rid of the guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, these are some of the best coaches in the world. In our case, some of the best coaches in Europe. It's not, I promise you, it's not coaching. There's no way, no how. It's not coaching. It's a player driven game. And sometimes things just don't break your way. And it becomes tough when, you just can't catch a break. But yes, I believe Coach Black is very much capable of being a head coach in this league and being a head coach in this league again, because that's not only a great person, but the guy is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to football and an extremely good teacher.
Le he preguntado si él pensaba que el coach Black estaba preparado para ser head coach y él me ha dicho que absolutamente sí, que no tiene ninguna duda, que hizo un gran trabajo como coordinador defensivo y que lo conoce bien y que no tiene ninguna duda al respecto, que es un tío que pone mucho trabajo, mucho corazón, que a veces las cosas no salen bien y que esto pasa mucho en la NFL, que grandes coaches no consiguen que sus equipos ganen y que entonces evidentemente los fans siempre piden la cabeza del entrenador, pero que él está absolutamente convencido de que los problemas de Barcelona Dragons no han venido por el coacheo del equipo. Do you know, Coach, Dragons fans miss you a lot. We love you so much. What are your memories about Dragons fans?
That's definitely a two-way street. I love those fans. I miss those fans. Like we were talking about before we jumped on here, we might have 13,000 people at a game in Duisburg, but there's nothing better than the 900,000 that we had in Barcelona. Those guys, the amount of noise they made, the passion they had, their love of the game, their love for the team. I mean, you can't, like I said, that's a big part of why I had the most fun I've ever had in football, was that group of fans and their love for our team. I miss them. I miss them immensely. I wish that we could have come out there for a game this year. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to make it back out for a game. It would be awesome to see everybody. Just an incredible group of people. And like I said, I wish it could have lasted longer, but maybe it's for the best it didn't. That way we all remember each other fondly.
Le he preguntado, bueno, le he dicho que los fans de Barcelona Dragons le amamos, que le echamos de menos, y le he preguntado por sus recuerdos sobre la afición de los Barcelona Dragons. Él me ha dicho que él también echa de menos a la afición de Barcelona Dragons, que él ha jugado en Rhein Fire pues con 10.000, 15.000 personas, pero que nada comparable a los 900 que nos juntábamos en Reus con nuestro corazón y nuestro amor por el equipo y nuestro amor por el deporte, que le parecemos asombrosos y que somos una gran parte de que él considere que su paso por los Barcelona Dragons fue el más divertido que él ha tenido en su carrera en el fútbol americano. Coach, do you have any thoughts on Bart Yacarino stepping down as general manager of Barcelona Dragons?
Nope. I got no thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. And the last one, you have been an hour with us. Thank you very much for coming. And the last one is, I know the answer, but now that Maria Carino is gone, is there any chance you will return to Barcelona Dragons?
To come back to the Barcelona Dragons, they'd have to be interested in me. And I haven't heard anything yet. So maybe one day we'll all be reunited. Until then, I'm gonna keep doing what I do, and hopefully we all, like I said, we'll run into each other again sometime here soon. But there's no replacing the spot that the Dragons and the Dragons fans have in my heart. So maybe one day. Unfortunately, that day is probably not today, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens in the future.
Sure. Le he preguntado si, ahora que María Carino se ha marchado, existe alguna posibilidad de que él vuelva a Barcelona. Me ha dicho que tampoco le han llamado y que no, que él va a hacer otras cosas, él va a seguir en Rhein Fire, ya nos lo ha dicho antes. Pero luego ha dicho que en un futuro, quién sabe, que nunca se sabe cómo evolucionan las cosas, y que él ha sido muy feliz aquí y que siempre llevará a la afición de los Dragons y a los Dragons en el corazón. Thank you, Coach, for coming here, for answer all the questions. Maybe some questions are not easy for you. Thank you for answering all of them. And thank you for the love you have for Dragons and for Barcelona Dragons fan base. Thank you very much. We love you too.
Thank you, guys. Thank everybody. Listen, thank you so much for everything. And I am serious. Hopefully we cross paths again sometime in the near future, because you guys all do mean a significant amount to me. Players, coaches, fans, everybody. So thanks for having me, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you very much, Coach. Goodbye. And the best luck for you and for your future teams.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Goodbye. Bueno, hemos despedido al coach Weidinger. Le he agradecido que esté aquí. Espero que no os haya ofendido mi inglés macarrónico y espero que más o menos que hayáis podido seguir la entrevista, que no se os haya hecho muy farragosa por el tema de las traducciones y tal. Bueno, ya hablaremos sobre esta entrevista posteriormente. Lo dejamos aquí. Gracias, gente de Formación Ilegal. Gracias, seguidores. Gracias, Blindsiders. Nos vemos en el próximo programa de El Lado Ciego. Muchas gracias a todos. Adiós. Bye, Coach.
Thank you. Bye.